Star Trek, Primitive Passenger Season 3, Episode 9, The Coming Storm. The Havoc's hull hung like a shadow that had lost its occluder, a blot of nothing against a sea of nothing more, as if the great dreadship had been crafted from elements of the void itself. On, Nolan. Ilara's voice held an edge of concern. I'm receiving a blink request on our secure frequency. Tapping at her console from the Delta. Nolan turned toward her. One of ours. No, the signature is unfamiliar, but they're using the correct protocols. Her fingers moved across the tactical display. They're requesting immediate transit to our location. Nolan considered for a moment. Could be a trap. Bring them in, but I want all weapons hot. Initiating blink. Ilara's hands hovered over the controls. Ready on all weapons. Space distorted briefly as a small vessel materialized before them. Its hull bore recent battle damage, and its warp signature fluctuated erratically. Receiving transmission, Ilara reported. Audio only. A breathless voice crackled through the speakers. Havoc, thank the stars. They're coming. The entire collective is mobilizing. Nolan straightened in his command chair. Slow down. Who is this? Kex. Remember me? You helped my people escape assimilation near the Gentara array. The voice steadied slightly. I've been monitoring board movements near the transwarp hub. There's unprecedented activity in Grid 639. Dozens of cubes are forming up. Confirmed. The drone sensor net shows multiple transwarp signatures. Ilara pulled up a holographic display of the sector. I can't ID in individual ships, but this is 10 times the usual activity. Where are they headed? Nolan asked, studying the projection. Based on their trajectory and the active conduits, Kex replied. They're moving toward the Alpha Quadrant. All of them. Nolan and Ilara exchanged glances. They'd seen Borg attacks before, but never on this scale. Send us your sensor data, Ilara instructed, her expression grim. As the information streamed in, she expanded the holographic display, revealing a web of transwarp corridors lighting up with activity. This isn't a normal invasion force, she observed, analyzing the patterns. They're committing significant resources. Nolan studied the tactical display, his mind already racing through possibilities. Can we disrupt the conduit network? Possibly. Ilara manipulated the hologram, highlighting key junction points. But we'll need to act fast. Once they're in the conduits, they'll be virtually unstoppable, Nolan finished. He turned back to the comm. Kex, get yourself somewhere safe. We'll handle it from here. As the transmission ended, Nolan and Ilara began mapping out their strategy, knowing they might be the Alpha Quadrant's only warning of the coming storm. Ahead, the distinctive emerald glow of a bored cube pierced the darkness. They haven't detected us yet, Ilara reported, her hands poised over the weapons console. The cube's shields are at standard configuration. Nolan leaned forward in his chair. Plot a sequence of blink points. I want us hitting that cube from every angle before they can adapt. Ilara nodded, her fingers flying across the controls. A complex pattern of coordinates materialized in the holographic display. Ready. But Nolan, we barely have enough power reserves for a protracted battle. We only need to buy enough time for the rest of their fleet to notice us. Nolan's eyes remained fixed on the cube. Execute on my mark. The cube loomed larger on the view screen, its massive form dwarfing even the Havoc. Now, the Havoc vanished, reappearing instantly above the cube. Phaser fire, disruptors, and quantum torpedoes struck the Borg vessel before its sensors could register the attack. Another blink, and the Havoc struck from behind. Then below. Then port. Each devastating barrage lasted only seconds before they disappeared again. Their shields are adapting, Ilara called out between attacks, but they can't compensate for our position shifts. The blink drive is confusing their targeting systems. The cube's response was immediate. Green disruptor beams sliced through empty space where the Havoc had been milliseconds before. We are the Borg. Your technological distinctiveness will be added to our own. Resistance is fought. The transmission cut off as another salvo from the Havoc tore through the cube's weapons array. Multiple Borg signatures changing course, Ilara announced. They're diverting toward our position. Nolan allowed himself a grim smile. Good. Let's give them something to chase. He gestured to the tactical display. Take us into the Dinos Nebula. We'll see how well they adapt to that. The Havoc blinked away from the damaged cube, leaving it to drift as its regeneration systems struggled to compensate for the unconventional attack. Behind them, 3 more cubes altered course, drawn by the prospect of acquiring the mysterious vessel that had bloodied one of their own. The Havoc's communications array hummed with activity as Ilara coordinated multiple subspace channels. Her expression remained focused, though concern flickered in her eyes. The Federation Council is receiving our data now, she reported, monitoring the encrypted transmissions. Starfleet Command has acknowledged receipt and... She paused, reading the incoming response. They're already mobilizing. Apparently, they've got their own Borg situation developing. What kind of situation? Nolan moved to her station, studying the scrolling text. A single cube is on a direct course for Earth. They've lost contact with the USS Enterprise near the neutral zone, and... Ilara's voice trailed off as she processed the incoming information. My God, Nolan, their captain has been assimilated. The cube appears to be under his control. Nolan absorbed this news. Keep going. What about the others? Ilara opened additional channels. The Klingon High Council is responding. Chancellor Gowron is ordering their fleet to battle readiness. She adjusted the communications frequency. The Cardassian response is typically verbose, but non-committal. They're requesting more tactical data before they'll consider mobilizing their forces. Send them everything we have. They need to understand what's coming. Nolan paced the bridge, his mind racing. The Romulans, broadcasting on all known Romulan frequencies, but as usual. She shrugged. Nothing but static from behind the neutral zone. Try the back channels, Nolan suggested. The ones we used during the Cardassian border disputes. Ilara nodded, reconfiguring the signal. Done, but I wouldn't expect. She stopped abruptly. Wait. We're getting something. It's not an official response, but someone in the Empire is receiving our warning. The communications console lit up with incoming requests for more information. Representatives from 12 worlds demanded details, coordinates, tactical assessments. They're afraid, Ilara observed quietly. They should be. Nolan returned to his chair, studying the tactical display showing the approaching Borg fleet. But fear might be what we need right now. Fear might make them work together. The Federation is requesting our assistance with the cube heading to Earth, Ilara reported. Nolan shook his head. They'll have to handle that on their own. We've got a bigger problem coming. He gestured to the long-range sensors showing dozens of Borg vessels around the transit hub. Keep broadcasting updates on fleet movements. Make sure everyone knows what's really coming. As Ilara continued coordinating with the various powers, the gravity of their situation settled over the bridge. They'd given the Alpha Quadrant its warning. Now they had to figure out how to stop an armada that could overwhelm them all. The Havoc dropped out of warp deep in Sector 219, the emptiness of space providing a stark backdrop for the deadly game they played. 7 Borg cubes pursued them, spread across 3 vectors, while long-range sensors showed more vessels converging on their position. Their tactical formations are evolving, Ilara observed, her attention divided between multiple threat displays. The lead cubes are maintaining adaptive shields, but the vessels following behind have lowered power to their defense systems to increase speed. Nolan studied the tactical overlay. They're learning, but not fast enough. Plot us a course through the trailing vessels first. No point wasting energy on targets that are ready for us. The Havoc blinked into existence behind a cube with minimal shields. Their weapons opened up immediately. lances of phased energy and quantum torpedoes hammering the Borg vessel's vulnerable systems. The cube's power grid overloaded before it could raise its defenses, internal explosions ripping through its superstructure. 2 more cubes on intercept, Ilara reported. Their shields are still down. Same pattern. Keep us moving. The Havoc continued its deadly dance, each blink positioning them perfectly for a devastating alpha strike before their targets could respond. 3 more cubes fell in rapid succession, their debris creating a glittering trail across the sector as they broke off pursuit to effect repairs. Warning indicators flashed across the bridge consoles. The blink drive's power matrix is showing signs of stress, Ilara announced, her fingers dancing across her station. We need to extend the reset time between jumps. That'll make us more predictable. Nolan watched as the remaining cubes adjusted their formation, creating overlapping fields of fire. How many more jumps before we risk a burnout? At current stress levels, maybe 5 or 6, a massive blast from one of the lead cubes passed through the space they'd occupied milliseconds earlier. The Borg were getting better at anticipating their movements. We've drawn enough attention, Nolan decided. Time to change tactics. Plot us a series of long-range jumps, random vectors. Make them work to follow us. The Havoc blinked away, reappearing 2 light-years distant. The pursuing cubes immediately altered course, their transwarp drives engaging to close the gap. As soon as they dropped back to impulse power, the Havoc jumped again, this time appearing behind the formation. Their adaptation rate is increasing, Ilara warned. Each engagement is giving them more data about the blink drive's capabilities. Another jump took them to the edge of a stellar nursery, the radioactive gases interfering with both sides' sensors. The Borg spread out, trying to cut off potential escape routes. Power reserves at 60%, Ilara reported. The drive's cooling systems are struggling to keep up with the repeated jumps. I see it. Nolan nodded, watching the tactical display as more Borg vessels joined the hunt. We've proven we can hurt them. Now we need to make them commit more resources to catching us. He paused, considering their options. Plot a course toward the Argolis cluster. Let's see how they handle navigating that mess at high warp. As the Havoc prepared for another jump, the bridge lights dimmed briefly, a physical reminder of the strain their desperate tactics placed on the ship's systems. They were bleeding the Borg, drawing more and more ships away from the main fleet, but the cost was mounting. The question wasn't whether they could keep fighting, but how long they could maintain this pace before something gave out. The space around them lit up with emerald beams as the Borg pressed their attack. Nolan gave the order, and the Havoc vanished once more into the depths of space, leaving their frustrated pursuers to follow the breadcrumbs of their Hightan Run campaign. The debris field stretched before the Havoc, remnants of their first engagement with the Borg cube scattered across space. Nolan and Ilara stood at the main viewer, studying the readings from their sensor sweep. Multiple life signs, Ilara reported, her voice softening. Thousands of drones, disconnected from the collective when we destroyed their cube's central plexus. Their cybernetic systems are failing without the neural link. The scan revealed bodies tumbling through space. Andorians, Tellarites, Cardassians, species they didn't recognize, all still covered in Borg implants. Some moved weakly, others floated motionless. We can't just leave them, Ilara said. Nolan rubbed his chin, considering the risks. No, we can't. But bringing assimilated drones aboard is asking for trouble. He turned to her. What about the pattern buffers? We've been working on extending pattern storage. Ilara's eyes lit up as she followed his thinking. We could modify them to maintain stable patterns almost indefinitely. It would be like suspended animation. Do it. Begin transport. The Havoc's transporters hummed to life, carefully picking up the floating drones. Each materialized briefly in the transport buffer, before being redirected to long-term pattern storage. Their implants are attempting to regenerate, Ilara noted, monitoring the incoming patterns. Some are actively trying to reconnect to the collective, but in the buffer, they're just data, harmless. As they worked, more life signs appeared on sensors. Another cluster, Nolan pointed. Looks like an entire assimilation chamber was ejected during the battle. These patterns are highly unstable, Alara warned as she locked onto the new group. The separation from the collective is causing massive neural trauma. Their biological systems are shutting down. Can you stabilize them in the buffer? No, but... She paused, studying the readings. Nolan, some of these drones were assimilated recently, within the last few days. Their original neural patterns are still relatively intact. Nolan moved closer to the display, examining the data. Tag those patterns for priority restoration when we find somewhere safe. They'll have the best chance of recovery. As they continued the rescue operation, a proximity alert sounded. More board ships were approaching. Pattern buffers at 60% capacity, Alara reported. We've recovered everyone we can reach, but there are more life signs deeper in the debris field. Nolan studied the tactical display, weighing their options. Mark this location. We'll come back if we can, but right now, we need to move. He looked at the status readout showing hundreds of patterns now stored in their buffers. At least we've given these drones a chance. The Havoc's engines powered up as the first board cube appeared on long-range sensors. They blinked away, leaving behind the floating graveyard of machinery and bodies, a grim reminder of the cost of their resistance. Start analyzing those patterns, Nolan instructed as they retreated to safer space. We need to know if there's a way to safely disconnect them from the collective without killing them. This might not be our last rescue operation. Alara nodded, already deep in the complex data streams of their unusual cargo. They'd saved these drones from death in space, but keeping them alive, and potentially restoring them to their original selves, would be a far greater challenge. The Havoc maintained position near a major transwarp hub, its massive hull dark against the backdrop of swirling quantum distortions. Across multiple sectors, several disabled Borg vessels drifted in space, their crews held in the Havoc's pattern buffers. Pattern buffers at 83% capacity, Alara reported from her station. We pulled in over 300,000 drones. She paused, checking another display. Our Hightan run tactics are working. They can't maintain a stable transwarp network with so many hubs destroyed. Nolan nodded. The Havoc's systematic attacks on transwarp nodes had fragmented the Borg's network, forcing their reinforcements to rely on conventional warp drive. Status of the remaining cubes? Scattered. Without their transwarp network, they're restricted to standard warp speed. Alara brought up a tactical display showing board vessels spread across several sectors. They're attempting to re-establish their network, but we're destroying the hubs faster than they can rebuild. A priority signal cut through their tactical discussion. Alara's expression darkened as she processed the incoming transmission. Nolan, her voice wavered slightly. It's from Starfleet Command. The cube reached Earth. They engaged it at Wolf 35-9, but she took a breath. 39 ships destroyed. 11,000 people lost. Silence fell over the bridge as the weight of the news settled around them. All their efforts to stop the reinforcements, and still one cube had devastated the Federation's defense fleet. The Enterprise managed to stop it before it reached Earth, Alara continued. They recovered Captain Picard, but the cost... Nolan's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. Show me the battle data. The view screen filled with images of destruction. Federation ships torn apart, debris fields where proud vessels had made their last stand. The tactical overlay showed how the cube had cut through their defenses with brutal efficiency. If those reinforcements had made it through, Alara didn't need to finish the thought. We stopped at least a dozen cubes from joining that battle, Nolan said quietly. It doesn't bring back those ships or their crews, but without our intervention, the Federation would have faced an armada instead of a single cube. Another alert drew their attention. 3 more cubes approaching the nearest hub. Elara reported. "They're attempting to re-establish the network." "Not happening." Nolan leaned forward. "Target their transwarp coils. Keep them blind and slow. We've done what we can here," Nolan decided after the engagement. "The bulk of their fleet is contained in the Delta Quadrant. It's time we headed for Federation space. Plot a series of short blink jumps. We'll take it slow, give the drive time to cool between jumps." He gestured to the tactical display. "And we'll see if we can pick up any more survivors along the way." As the Havoc prepared for its journey to the Alpha Quadrant, Nolan studied the casualty reports from Wolf 359. Names, ships, entire crews lost in a battle they couldn't hope to win. They'd prevented an even greater disaster, but the victory felt hollow against such devastating losses. "Begin jump sequence," he ordered, "and keep monitoring for any sign they're rebuilding the network. The Borg won't give up easily." The Havoc disappeared in a flash of light, leaving behind a graveyard of disabled cubes and destroyed transwarp hubs. In its patterned buffers, hundreds of thousands of drones waited in stasis, victims of the collective who might yet have a chance at reclaiming their lives, if they could find a way to safely restore them. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. And somewhere ahead lay the Federation, reeling from its losses, unaware that an unexpected ally was about to emerge from the depths of space. The Havoc emerged from its final blink into a sea of wreckage. The battlefield of Wolf 35-9 spread before them, a graveyard of Federation ships stretching as far as sensors could detect. Hull fragments tumbled slowly through space, gleaming in the distant starlight. The remnants of proud vessels, Galaxy-class, Excelsior, Miranda, New Orleans, scattered like broken toys across the void. "My God," Elara breathed, her usual composure slipping as she took in the devastation. The reports didn't do it justice. Nolan stood from his command chair, moving closer to the view screen. A half-destroyed saucer section drifted past, its registry numbers still visible through the scorch marks. USS Kyushu. "Life signs?" he asked quietly. Elara checked her readings. "Multiple. But they're not survivors. They're drones. Hundreds of them, disconnected from the collective when the cube was destroyed." She paused, studying the data. Many of them were Federation crew members, recently assimilated. The implications hung heavy in the air. These weren't just enemy combatants. They were Starfleet officers and crew, transformed into drones and then abandoned when their cube was destroyed. "Add them to the pattern buffers," Nolan ordered. "How many can we still hold?" "We have capacity for another 100,000 patterns, but Nolan..." Elara turned to face him. "What are we going to do with them all? We're carrying almost 500,000 patterns now. Former drones from dozens of species, hundreds of worlds." Nolan watched as the Havoc's transporters began picking up the floating drones. They deserve a chance. The board took their lives, their identities. If there's a way to restore them, the Federation might be able to help, Elara suggested. "They've already recovered Captain Picard. They must have developed some method of removing Borg implants. One person is different from 500,000. Nolan shook his head. "We'd need massive medical facilities, surgical bays, recovery centers. And that's assuming we can even safely disconnect them from the collective without killing them." "We can't restore them all at once," Elara said. "But maybe we can start small. Find a safe location, set up proper facilities. Give them back their lives one at a time." Nolan nodded slowly, his mind already working through the logistics. It would take years, decades even. "We have time," Elara reminded him gently, "and it's better than leaving them to die out here." As they continued their grim salvage operation, the true scale of their task became clear. They weren't just collecting damaged drones. They were taking on responsibility for hundreds of thousands of lives. Each pattern in their buffers represented someone's crew member, someone's family, someone's child. The battlefield of Wolf 359 had shown them the devastation the Borg could inflict. Now they faced an even greater challenge, trying to undo at least some of that damage. one restored life at a time. Admiral Rollins' stern face filled the Havoc's view screen, his expression a mix of gratitude and concern. Behind him, the stark walls of Starfleet Command offered no hint of warmth. "The Federation Council has reviewed your request, Mr. Mercer," Roland began. "We're prepared to grant you settlement rights in the Norris system." A star chart materialized beside the Admiral's image, highlighting a small cluster of planets near the confluence of Federation, Gorn, and Romulan space. "Thrima-class planets," Roland continued. "Minimal indigenous life. No sentient species. But I must emphasize our concerns about establishing what amounts to a board rehabilitation facility so close to Federation space." "These aren't Borg anymore, Admiral," Nolan responded, keeping his tone measured. "They're victims, people who were assimilated against their will. We're offering them a chance to reclaim their lives." 500,000 former drones, Roland countered. "The security implications alone will be our responsibility," Nolan cut in. "We've already developed methods to neutralize their implants and prevent reconnection to the collective. The Federation is welcome to verify our procedures." Alara stepped forward, adding her voice to the discussion. "Our first priority will be medical facilities and rehabilitation centers. These people will need time and support to recover from their trauma." The Admiral's expression softened slightly. "Your intervention during the crisis probably saved Earth from facing an entire armada. The Federation owes you a debt." He paused, consulting a pad. "But we'll need guarantees, security protocols, regular inspections. All reasonable precautions," Nolan agreed. "But these people will be free to choose their own path once they're restored. No one owns them anymore." Roland nodded slowly. "Very well. I'll have the official documentation transmitted to your ship. The Norris system is yours, Mr. Mercer. Make good use of it." As the transmission ended, Nolan turned to Ilara. "Well, we've got our work cut out for us." "Indeed." She pulled up a detailed scan of their new territory. "The second planet, M271, looks most suitable for initial settlement. We can begin construction within days." Nolan studied the image of their new home, a blue-green world waiting to be transformed. "Send word to our operations teams. I want medical facilities up and running as soon as possible." He paused, allowing himself a small smile. "Time to give these people back their future." The Havoc's engines hummed to life as they set course for the Norris system. In their pattern buffers, hundreds of thousands of rescued souls waited for their chance at a new beginning. Epilogue. Nolan's private quarters aboard Empire North glowed with soft ambient light. The station's distant hum provided a gentle backdrop as he and Trill lounged in his oversized bed, its bowl-like shape cradling them comfortably against a mountain of pillows. Trill traced a finger along Nolan's chest, her green skin contrasting with his. "I still don't understand. Why take responsibility for so many former drones? The logistics alone must be staggering." Nolan stared up at the viewport above his bed, watching stars drift past. "Honestly, I'm not entirely sure myself." He shifted, pulling her closer. "But I remember what it was like, waking up from my own mechanized nightmare. 200 years plugged into the Encanite war machine, fighting battles I barely remember." "That's different," Trill countered. "You weren't assimilated by the Borg." "No, but I know what it's like to have your humanity stripped away, to be used as a tool, and then to wake up in a world that's moved on without you." His voice grew quiet. "These people deserve a chance to find themselves again." Trill propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the dim light. Her dark hair spilled across her bare green shoulders as she traced the old scars on his chest. "Well, I'm glad you made it back. The Federation lost over 40 ships to just one cube. If you hadn't stopped those reinforcements—" She shuddered slightly. "We would have lost everything." "The cost was already too high," Nolan murmured, running his hand along her spine. "Wolf 359 will haunt Starfleet for generations. And yet here you are, planning to save thousands." Her golden eyes searched his face. "The mysterious Nolan Mercer, scourge of the quadrant, secret humanitarian. A half-smile tugged at his mouth. Don't go spreading that around. Bad for business. Your secret's safe with me. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his neck. Speaking of secrets, Nolan's hand tangled in her hair as he pulled her close, his lips finding hers. Trill responded eagerly, her body pressing against his as she slid beneath the sheets. Above them, stars wheeled silently past the viewport, while below, Empire North hummed with its usual quiet energy, oblivious to the intimacy of its master's quarters.